Hello, hello, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Maximum Growth Live. I am your host, Jay Ruane. With me, as always, over there, Seth Price. My firm, Blue Shark. No, my firm isn't Blue Shark. Your firm is Blue Shark. My firm is FirmFlex. Seth, we talk so much, I get it mixed up. But how are you doing this week?
I'm, hold it on. We're doing it. The seasons have changed. It's no longer shorts weather. But, again, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and pushing forward.
Yeah, we got a puppy a couple of weeks ago, and I've had to take the puppy out in the middle of the night. And last night, 3 a.m., I was freezing taking this puppy out to go to the bathroom. Crazy. But, Seth, one of the things I want to talk about this week, and it dovetails nicely with our guest who we have this week, is we talked about Undercover Billionaire on Tuesday on our show. And, boy, we got a ton of commentary and back and forth on our broadcast. So, Seth, let's talk a little bit about that. What was your reaction to all the comments?
Well, look, it was fascinating. It was fascinating because you could see there were people on either side of the argument. What was most fascinating was the thread that came out of John Fisher's comment that picked up on this difference that you and I have on the abundance of sharing. And that, to me, I didn't really pick up on it as much during the show. When I went back and listened to it, I was like, there is something. So today with Bill Umansky, I'd love to sort of drill down with him, because this is a guy who was up and running with a firm before when I just showed up on the scene. And so to see, and he's been through much of this. He's really good with the community, bringing people together, retaining relations with ex-employees, et cetera. So I'm curious to see how he sort of fits into that world, because it's fascinating. I've always sort of loved the idea of bringing people in that could be potential competitors and getting to know them and hopefully having some sort of long-term relationship with them. And I know that's not your jam, but I'd love to see what Bill has to say about it.
Yeah, I think Bill's going to add a lot to this conversation. And since we do have a tendency to go long, why don't we call him up? Let's take a moment. We'll take a short break. I'll get him lined up on the call. We'll hear from our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to do the Max Growth interview with the Lawman, Bill Umansky. So give me about a minute. We'll be back here in a minute with Bill Umansky, and we'll be talking about abundance, associates, and all those wonderful things. Hang tight, folks. We'll be right back.
In this world today, if you want to grow your business, you want to grow your firm, you want to take on more cases and make a bigger impact, you have to have a digital blueprint. Statistically, throughout the time that we've been working with Blue Shark Digital, our law firm, the Atlanta Divorce Law Group, grew over 1,400%. They truly understand where we're headed and how we want to get there. I have a team in Blue Shark Digital that I feel like has my back.
And we're back. We're back with our good friend, the Lawman. Bill, I haven't been able to hang out with you in like a year now, maybe like 9 months, and I am missing the Lawman from our life. So, Seth, why don't you tell everybody who's watching today, tell them who the Lawman is.
Well, Bill Umansky has been sort of a friend, a mentor, an inspiration. I met Bill over a decade ago. When I was trying to get my firm going, he was already going full steam. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to have Bill today is, as a lot of you have seen in the comments from our last show, there was a lot of back and forth about the abundance of giving and how much information to share. And one of the things that I recall distinctly when I first met Bill, and I was sort of flying high and kind of cocky thinking, hey, I got these guys, and I had lawyers stay year after year, is At some point, Bill was telling me people left and set up shop across the street and started competing, which leads to a whole bunch of different issues. And I'd love to sort of unpack that with Bill today and talk about not just what it's like when the attorney is there knowing that someday they could be your competitor, but secondly, Jay, you were talking about like not wanting to talk to competitors and necessarily share as much. Now your former employees, you want to keep that alumni group strong. At the same time, those people may be competing directly against you. So Bill, talk to us about that because you've been through this time and again.
Yeah, I think it starts with what you're like when they work with you and whether they respect you or not. I think we've talked before about, I love telling this story where I had a guy that started when he was in college, guys, and he used to read every single book, and he wanted to be a top plaintiff lawyer and product liability lawyer. And he was much smarter than I was, a harder worker than I was. And he graduated college, UCF, University of Central Florida, and he went to University of Florida Law School. And at the time, he got married. And here was the first step in, like, we had an old car and country, what is it called? Those minivans with TVs in them. We had young kids. The car was worth about $9,000, and he needed a car to go to school. So I just gave him the car. And when he came back, he worked when he was in law school, either clerk first in the summers, came back, worked as a job. The point being, he was one of many, but he went on and moved on. But when he came to give his notice, guys, he had his head down and he wasn't looking me in the eyes. And this is a guy that could look you in the eyes. He's like, I want to do my own thing. And basically, he was tired of my shit. He didn't want to handle clients the way we wanted him to handle his clients. He wanted to be able to do whatever the fuck he wanted to do. Am I allowed to curse?
Sure.
Yeah, and he just wanted to do whatever he wanted to do. So, but he really had a hard time saying, I want to leave. So I said, you can leave. You just got to give me a year's notice. And he gave me a year's notice. And he didn't steal my clients. We helped set him up. We helped give him some people that he could rely upon. And, the next guy that ever did that to me knew when he came in, he goes, I want to open my own firm. And I was like, I can't give you a year. I go, can you give me like 6 months? And can you find a replacement that's better than you? And he did. So, Seth and I were talking before the show how we've gotten burned by a lot of that. But it's kind of those things, what you do for your employees. So this particular guy that had 6 months, we were good to him. We took care of him. We sent him to either it was Europe on vacation with his wife. And when he went away, we had like a huge party with a limousine and we all partied and we had him have a send-off. So,
Bill, to be fair, though, you're talking a couple of awesome stories, and you're an awesome special guy who invests a lot, and I get that.
I want to quit your firm. Can I quit your firm?
I've provided cars to employees, not necessarily lawyers, and been burnt. I've had some of my favorite lawyers who have, they didn't give me 6 months notice. They gave us notice. And then basically some of my favorite people set up shop by saying, well, I was trained by these guys. And now you get that training for you for half the price. So, you're giving us the great stories, but, as it does hurt when you set something up and all of a sudden what you've invested in, especially the amount that you invest, they're not all perfect like that. And that for all of our listeners out there, there's going to be that moment when the first person leaves and does that. It is a jolt.
Yeah, so we've definitely had people that have left, and usually some of those people were not people that actually left on great terms, but we left on amicable terms. But I'm just being upfront with you. I have very rarely had someone, these two guys in particular, by the way, it's not that they're not setting up down the street, and I don't know what they're telling their people. In fact, quite frankly, they may be doing that. Hey, Umansky's firm trained us. They got all these systems. They have all this overhead. That's why they're charging more. If I ever found out that happened, I told them, listen, compete on price if you want, but let's keep it clean and let's know who your friends are. So, it has not happened to my knowledge that's actually happened where I've had an employee that's left on good terms, and most of those guys have left on good terms. So what I will tell you is it starts in the relationship process, in my opinion, when they're working with you. Seth, you say you have these lawyers, they're good friends, you've been burned. I've been burned by employees and by lawyers perhaps that work for me that were not as competent or not as what we wanted them to do. I've had client relations people more so than the lawyers have done that to me, and gone work to competitors, and I don't have a competition clause. But when it strictly relates to the lawyer, I'm going to push back on you and say, most of these guys, because we are trying to, I make a lot of mistakes, right, Jay? I fuck up. Yeah, I fuck up probably more than both of you.
Bill, but the thing is, you're honest about it, and we text each other. I mean, I'll tell you, Bill and I have been friends for a while now too, and we'll text each other, "Hey, I fucked up today, and I have to tell somebody I messed up," and you'll talk me off the ledge, I'll talk you off the ledge. I mean, that's what's good about having people that you can turn to in these situations.
Yeah, and I'm just pushing back a little, saying I fucked up in a lot of different areas with my practice and marketing and all this other shit, but this
wasn't about whether we fucked up or not. I'm just trying to bring value to our listeners to get the different type of exits. Look, 9 times out of 10, our exits are good. People leave amicably. Nobody's stealing clients. We figure out a way to finish off those cases so the clients aren't, get the best, easiest transition. All of that's great. What I was trying to do, and I want to pivot to Jay for a second, because where this came out of was I didn't even pick up on this. John Fisher sort of noticed this piece in our discussion of the undercover billionaire, where my attitude, I think, aligns a lot with Bill's, where we'll take a potential competitor, somebody who's new to town, comes into our office, sits down. I'll speak to them the way that lady in the coffee house or the brewer does. Jay took a position of, no, I'm not going to do that. And I just wanted, I thought that was fascinating because I didn't even hear it during the actual recording till somebody else brought it up. Jay, would love your thoughts on that because it's a slightly different approach to things.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that, and this is a subject that comes up often. I sit at my desk and I have on the corner of my desk a picture of my wife and kids. And everything I do for my business is meant to protect them. And so if I have someone who has left, I will point them in the direction of resources, but I am not going to give them any of the secret sauce. I am certainly not going to encourage them to get into my market. And if they say, hey, you know what, I want to get into your market, I'll say, fine, be ready for an arms race. Now, I know I've had associates who've left, who've tried to compete with me. I know I've lost clients to former associates when we were in the intake process. My response to that is, they are right. I taught them absolutely everything that they know about DUI. I haven't taught them everything I know about DUI. And so if you want to hire somebody who knows just enough, go with them. You're not the right client for me. But I know some former associates who've left and hung a shingle and are giddy that they've been able to steal a client from me in my sales process. God bless. I mean, it's just the way it is. But I'm not going to help you compete with me at the level that you probably want. And I'm sorry. I'll say read this book, join this Facebook group. Some of my former associates, I said, you guys got to get involved with Maximum Lawyer because there's great things for guys like you or women like you who want to hang a shingle. But there comes a fine line. I'm not talking pay-per-click strategy with them.
Well, look, ironically, I want to bring this back to Bill because I think there's a distinction that came out because John comes from a purely PI big case point of view, limited number of cases. Jay, very criminal defense centric. Bill, you and myself sort of dance between two worlds where we have both the PI and the criminal. PI world, very egalitarian because the guy you use your competition could refer you a case and back and forth. I do see the criminal side as a little bit more competitive. What are your thoughts about the difference between those worlds?
Obviously, if you get burned on a PI case, for instance, an associate takes a huge case from you, that's huge, right? That has never happened to me, but I have seen it happen at other firms that I've worked at. But I'm going to go back. You asked about value, and I'm going to tell you something. When you guys hire attorneys, are you hiring them because you want them to stay there long term?
Yes. No, I mean, for me, I'd like to think that they would want to stay long term. But part of the conversation we have is when they come in to give their notice is they say, I think it's time for me to leave. I'm taking a job, or I'm hanging a shingle, and I say congratulations, because right now you're living my vision. If you leaving here gets you to live your vision of what you want for life, I'm happy for you, man. Yeah, I'm gonna take some lumps and figuring out who's covering what and that type of thing. But every lawyer that I've hired with an idea that they could be here long term.
So my perspective is, when I hire and I have a conversation with them when they come in, I say to them, I don't expect you to be here forever. And I don't even know if I want you here long term yet, because, only you did great at the interview and you did terrific, but let's see how you perform. But let's have an ongoing relationship as we're going through the process. So, for instance, last night, I've got a lawyer here. We sat in the bar and we talked. We had a couple scotches and talked about stuff. And, I feel like when I bring them in, some of them even tell me I have a 3-year plan. I want to open my own firm. Because I'm like, when I interview them, cut the bullshit. You may not want to be here forever. You may not even know, what do you really want to do? I want to find out what it is that you want to do. And I look at them as they're walking in, is at some point they're going to walk out. And I want to have a relationship with them if they're good lawyers and they were loyal to us and they did a great job here, or they did a great job at certain functions here. I want to be able to develop a relationship, because when they leave, you're talking about PI, they can be referral sources, they can be co-counsels, they're people that refer us cases. And to me, that's a win-win. And it's not just about business, Seth. I told you a long time ago, it's about heart. Having a relationship with these people, and then you get old. Like, I'm old as fuck now. I'm like 54. But you're able to look back in your career and go, that guy now owns the building that I used to own. One of my associates just bought a building that I was first in on Fern Creek Avenue in downtown Orlando, and he leases to my old landlord who decided to stay in the building. These are cool stories that you tell your kids and say, it's not just about making money. It's not making about life, but it's making long-term friends. And I hope they're not dishing behind my back.
No, look, Bill, I get it. But I have a slightly different perspective. I do want people to stay forever if I can make it worth their while. And one of the nuances, and Jay and I go back and forth on this a lot, I have found in the fee-for-service area, I've had a harder time doing this in the PI area and trying to get better. But in the fee-for-service areas, criminal, family, trust, and estates, I have found that by cutting the lawyers in and making them vested as partners within their group based on production has taken money off the table for why somebody would leave. Somebody wants to go in-house at Cap One. I can't do anything about it. It's a career change, but it's allowed for removing of other margins, maybe slightly smaller. But when that's gone and they feel an empowerment, then they have a decision. Do they want to go somewhere else because they really want their name on a shingle? And we've had that once or twice. But generally, if we can eliminate money as the motivating factor for leaving, then we have a chance. And look, I agree with you. I love the success stories of people that have left and have done cool things. But I also am extremely proud that we have people more and more staying a decade or more with us. To me, that's the home run.
I'm going to say to you, just because I say that I don't expect them to stay long or forever, doesn't mean I don't want them to stay long. We've had lawyers work for us for 8 years. We've got guys in here 5-6 years now. And, so I think, and they are not brought in as partners, but they have a share of what they collect and what they bring in.
But to me, that is a partner. And I have on a tangent, right. I believe that if I would like everybody to be a partner from first year on up, why would we give somebody a scarlet A that they have to walk around with in order to sell? That's my partner. He's going to take care of you. I don't do it.
And I look at that too, that by giving them commission and giving them a piece and giving them, you reduce your own margins to what you're making, but you're making them feel empowered. I do agree with that. I'm just saying that Jay brought this up. Sometimes people leave because they're going to go fulfill their own vision. So it depends upon if you're a Machiavellian or not. You're like, I'm hiring this person and I want them to be long-term. I'm going to make them a partner, but I really just want them to see my vision or have them be my vision. Whereas opposed to, listen, we want to see if we can accomplish, the firm has a vision. We want you to come in, but we want you to add to that vision, in my opinion. What can you bring that's different? What can you bring that's diverse? What can you bring that's and make them feel like it's their part, their vision, so they don't want to leave.
Well,
to Jay's point about but at some point people just want to do their own thing.
Yeah, and one of the things that I got from William Eady, who is a nursing home lawyer, he's got this philosophy that he discusses with people regularly. Stay in joy and leave in peace. If you're not happy here, we'll help you find where you're going to be happy. And leaving the firm doesn't necessarily have to be a contentious thing. I like being able to say to somebody who said, "Hey, it's time for me to go. Congratulations, you're on your way. I wish you the best of success." Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say, "Oh, that's a gut punch," and I gotta hustle to find somebody because they were carrying a heavy load. That is what it is. But really, the most important thing is that you can encourage people to find their happiness and find their vision. I'm not going to necessarily help you out. I'm not necessarily referring you cases if you're going to compete with me in my market. That's just not how I do it.
Funny because I look at some of the people in your state, the biggest players, right? Whether it's Levin Papp or whether it's Morgan, their alumni have gone on to do crazy stuff. And while there may be a little bit of issues when they leave, they end up, we're playing in the same fishbowl. And that, like, to me, I love the idea of, like, can I make lemonade out of those lemons? Because, again, any breakup can be hard because it may be that you weren't ready for them to go, or maybe, or vice versa. But the idea that if you can somehow keep those people as high a percentage as possible, and to me, that's something that I strive for, is that of the people that leave, are there people that have burned? There's some people that I know that have to burn the ship when they leave. And it sucks as the business owner because I would like those people to not have that, and I've circled back with them years later. But there's some people, the only way they can be driven is to sort of like say, "Hey, that sucked. That's awful. I'm going to go do my own thing." It's unfortunate, but I'm sure you've both dealt with that type.
I know I have. I mean, I've had a couple of associates or attorneys. I mean, I don't call them associates. I just call them attorneys. But I've had a couple of attorneys in my office in the last 2 years, both of whom it was clear to me, having gotten to know them over the years that they were with me, that there were some personal issues going on with their relationships. And since they couldn't control the relationships, they can control where they worked. And so they opted to say, "I need to make a change in my life. I'm taking a new job," rather than do what they needed to do in their personal life. And I can't stop that. And I get it. I mean, and if that's the situation and you're miserable for 6 months staring at your screen because you can't control something that's running out of control and you think a new job is going to do it for you, God bless. Go for it. Because I know it's not going to make you happy, but at least I don't have you, Mr. Grumpy Pants, sitting in the office 2 doors down from me, and not really doing what we want to do customer service wise. So that's the way I've sort of approached it. I mean, the only really one. I mean, I've had a couple of people who've left to go take state jobs, and if that's their vision, I can't compete with a 40-hour state type of employment. And it's interesting. The only lawyer who really was crushing to me in the last 5 years who left came back a week later and said, "I started the job and said, this is not the life for me. What can we do? I want to be your partner." And I said, "Well, great, because I wanted to have this conversation." And then you dropped on me, you were leaving. So it all kind of worked out. So, and I've tried to insulate myself, and I know, Bill, you've got this persona of the lawman and you market that. I was nervous about bringing on any other attorneys and developing a name for them in my community. So, I branded my first other attorney as Lady DUI, and she, interestingly, like Seth says, she's the one who stayed with me the longest, and she's still here and a partner, and she's crushing it. And I've built other brands to avoid the associate leaving and taking that revenue line away from them. If you build up, spend thousands and hundreds of thousands in educating them and building their brand name, and then they leave, that stuff's all gone. So I mean, what do you say about that? I mean, you've got to invest in your team, but do you build a brand around them, or do you make the brand your firm and they just happen to be a part of it? Guys, what would you say in that situation?
Bill?
I made the shift. To me, I actually want to get out of my name. I've been around a long time, but I've now making the shift. So if we're all so busy, we don't have time to even look at everyone's social media. But right now, we are highlighting every attorney individually. We're talking about their achievements. We're sharing their reviews. I don't share them enough on my personal page, but I've started doing that. I want to build their brands up individually because I'm proud of them. That's actually the first thing. And I know again, I'm not talking from business. I'm talking about my heart, but I'm proud because I'm associated with some really, really amazing lawyers. So, for instance, this guy Bryce the other day got a murder case dropped. And he won another case because of COVID. You know, the courts have suspended speedy trial. He got a motion for discharge, which that means for lawyers that aren't criminal. Basically, he got the case dismissed because of time. And these are smart guys. They are lawyers that are 40 years old. They're lawyers that got 15, 20 years of experience. Some of them 10, 12 years. Some of them are board certified. I want to share them. Because it's almost like when you do good things and you do charity, it rubs off. So but Jay, as I'm listening to you, yeah, I would be devastated if those guys leave every time the other people have left, but I rebound quickly because I'm kind of like, I don't take it personally. And I think that's part of it. I just want to give you another thing. You know, when we have employees, actions matter more than words. I think in the beginning, because we market, sometimes I bullshit too much without following through on stuff. For instance, your core values, and then you're not consistent with them. I've learned over the last year or so, and I'm still trying to put this into play, that your employees think about the action. So for an example, you want to talk about value. If you have a lawyer that leaves your firm, how cool would it be? And my firm administrator, you know her, Sarah, and Zara, my wife, they're not really down with this. I invited the same ex-employee back to the Christmas parties. He'd wear a torn red shirt.
We do that.
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking about a firm Christmas party that's not open to the public, not open to clients.
Understood.
Yeah. And you bring I'm not saying you don't do it. I'm just saying by bringing these ex-employees back, you're not afraid that they're going to say anything or, hey, they're nasty.
And of course, it's self-selecting, right? The ones that leave in a storm are probably not part of that group. But anybody that, your alumni, that's the part where, to me, those people that come and say, I want to set up shop in town, the odds of them doing it and building a marketing machine like Jay is so remote. To me, you're much more likely to have them as an ally if you speak to them kindly over the next decade. And similarly, if there's a way to keep the alumni, look at the big firms, they spend so much time working on their alumni networks. They have entire people dedicated to it. Now, in B2B world, there's a lot more cross-referral, but it seems to me that smaller firms are very often short-sighted, that they could be disciples of you rather than competitors, sometimes both, but that it is something that if cultivated can, pay huge dividends.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bill.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Jay.
So one of the things that's interesting to me, at least that I have found, is that there are a significant number of younger lawyers. I'd say lawyers that are now probably, in their early 30s, who maybe not necessarily ever wanted to be a lawyer, but went to law school because they were told, oh, you're smart, you should be a lawyer, and got so used to people telling them what they should do. And so they came out with a history degree or a marketing degree and decided instead of going and getting a job, they were going to go to law school. And it was impressive to their families that they were going to become a lawyer. And so they never really stopped to think, do I actually want to do the practice of law? And that's, unfortunately, I think that's, I've had a couple of people who probably never should have become lawyers that have left to take other jobs because that was more in line with their vision and it was something that was more manageable. So
Jay, isn't that more of a hiring piece to me? Like I've always if I could wave a magic wand, I love the people that are like 2nd to 8th years, 3rd to 8th years. They're in a spot, they've done that type of law for a number of years, and so that you've sort of eliminated those risks, sort of just like hiring right out of college. We've been burnt a lot, both at Price Benowitz and at Blue Shark, where people come out and we have people that end up leaving our place and going home to live with their parents and not having a job. They don't want to work. So The idea is, to me, I always look at our hires as almost self-selecting. We know who we want. Does this person want what we have to sell? For us, we're going to eliminate the marketing, the admin, the account. We're going to take all that off their plate so they can practice. If they don't want to practice, it's the wrong place to be. And looking for that there, again, easier said than done. But to me, that's the essence. If you get the right people on the way in, you have the best chance of that extended tail.
Oh, absolutely. Bill?
Yeah, as long as your process is, if you get obviously if you get the right people in, that's why sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but we do like 3 interviews sometimes with people. We'll bring them into the office, we'll have a drink at a bar, and then we'll do it at another third location. What we haven't done is had other lawyers interview them, which is now I'm thinking probably a good idea. I know I don't do that.
More touch. To me, I use it all the time. I hope I don't get sued for it. But the analogy is dating. It's over and over again. Like you wouldn't just like meet somebody for a drink and then go get married. The idea is it's taking those basic steps. Jay and I have this 10 hack episode coming up. And one of the things I am a huge proponent of is shadow days. Doesn't work as well with lawyers necessarily, certainly with staff. But the idea is, okay, we like you. You've interviewed well twice. We've had a meal. But do you want to do what we're doing? Are you going to, do you want to drink this Kool-Aid? And if the end of a day, it's not even, you're not looking to see whether you can't tell that much from a day, but what are the questions being asked? Are they engaged? Like, do you want what we're selling?
I think to have someone come back in 3 times to meet with you on an interview, and most people are doing 1, maybe 2, and you even stretch it out to 4, that shows a lot about the person that's trying to interview, because they're either hungry, or assuming they're good quality, they're like, there are people that feel entitled, like, why would I have to do that? I've had interviews where on the second interview they basically, why do I got to come back again?
Well, and look, we think a lot of ourselves, but our former firm administrator, Brian, he would get people in a room away from me, and he'd get them to say things that were, he'd come back to me and say, this person doesn't want the job. Yeah. And I'd be like, I thought this person was all giddy. So the idea that you have people outside of your, that's not you, that may have a different sensibility, I think incredibly valuable, because that different perspective, and that the issue, the truism, hire slow, fire fast. I mean, we are all guilty of it now. Is the one time where we finally 6 months ago, we had to hire quickly because the person would be off the market if we didn't do it quickly. Now I feel like we finally have the luxury to go back to the Bill Umansky model and really have those touches. And what's genius, if you can actually do it, which is tough because it takes away from family time, but a drink, seeing somebody outside of the interview environment, incredibly valuable. Good for you, Bill.
I think, but Jay, when you were talking about this, it's funny. When I look at my kids and I look at my wife and, the stuff that, for our family, I still look at these attorneys that are leaving that I've engendered a relationship with, and there's negatives. Sometimes you're too friendly with your lawyers that work with you. It becomes like a family, and then some of them feel like they can bitch more and do that. But I'd rather have all of that. And when I look at them leaving, I look at it as like, what is that opportunity for their family and my family together? Even though we're completely separate, even though they're working against me in the sense that they're going to take a case. And I got to tell you, there's nothing better than getting a referral from a co-defendant, from a former. And by the way, my former associates look out for each other more than me. So what they'll do is they'll text me and go, I have a referral for your firm, but I'm going to give it to this associate, this lawyer who I'm friends with, so that she can get credit. But Bill, I want you to know I'm sending it to you. And it feels good, and it feels good to give them back something. So when they open new offices, you go over there in person, drop off some scotch or drop off a gift and sit with them. And then what I usually do, I'm like, where's my scotch? So we have a bar here, and they'll come by and they'll drop off a bottle, for example. And we have an open door policy for these associates. They come back in. It's so funny when you have our receptionists don't always stay with us for reasons. They'll come in and, who is this guy? And he'll just go in and sit in the bar. They're like, we got a stranger in the building. But those feelings are good because, so I look at that same picture of my family and say, it hurts. Don't bullshit. It hurts when they leave, but I'm also like, they're going to do their own thing. They made their mind up. We've communicated all this process, and at least they've told me what they were thinking. And it's going to be an opportunity for both of us. So, and I know it's just looking at the positive side of it, I think.
So I got to ask you, Bill, and Seth, I want you to weigh in on this. You maintain these relationships with the clients, and I know both of you spend a lot of time working hard in your systems and your marketing and doing what it takes to make your firm functional. What is it like to get that former attorney to come back to you 6 months, 9 months, 18 months later and say, wow, you made it look so easy? It's not. That is the thing that I love getting. That makes me feel good that they're like, I was working for you and doing my thing and thought I can handle opening a law firm. This isn't that hard to do. Everything seems to be working just fine. Tell me about some of those experiences, because I think that's telling for people that when you have a good operation, things may seem like they're smooth sailing, but those legs, the duck is smooth on the top of the water, but the legs are moving a million miles an hour underneath.
You guys gotta wait till your kids become teenagers, and then you're gonna see the same shit.
Oh,
Because
boy.
you're gonna tell them, you're gonna jump the gun because you're a cool parent. You weren't like your dad and mom, and you're like, listen, I'm gonna show you. I was there the other night, 9 o'clock. Rachel, one of the lawyers, in the back, and she's pulling her hair out, and her neck hurts. She goes, I'm just stressed out. I'm like, well, I'm stressed. I got to pay $200,000 overhead this month. Let me explain why that's stressful, and blah, blah, blah. They're not listening. They're like your kids.
Yeah.
But I swear to God, when they go out on their own, it's the greatest feeling. Like Zach's 21. He goes, Dad, I had to work on this project all night. So honestly, that I'm laughing as you said that because it is a great feeling, but it's so frustrating because you want them to get it, but they're not going to get it until they live it. Just like your teen. Like how old's your oldest kids?
My oldest
13.
is 10.
Yeah, just wait till they're 16.
No, look,
17.
I already get it because I'm already going through this with the 13. I got a teenager all of a sudden. It's hellish. But no, I get it. I don't always get that right away. Sometimes I do, but generally it's years later till they went to a place and then the first partner didn't work out and there's a name change and a pivot and this and that. And then you see cool ones. I had a former associate who left that was, I can't put in the category of somebody who was, we stayed in close touch with, but got to reconnect through serendipity the other day. And they had made a career pivot to another area of law that seemed like a genius move for them based on their personality, based on the market. And so, it goes back to what you were saying before, like you want those people to be out there. And look, we haven't talked about this, but we can sugarcoat the exit, but any breakup of any sort, going back to the dating analogy, the other end of the relationship, there's that moment. And look, there's going to be an economic component about how much somebody really turns the screws on you. Because as you know, the ethics laws don't make it great for business owners. So if, when you're in those moments, there is very often some touchy stuff that goes on. You try to keep it copacetic, but depending on how much somebody pushes economically, it can affect, or how dickish they are. But I just had one of the guys who left. It was pretty good. He did a lot of good work to help make that exit good, but it was definitely stressful. And got to have just one of those nice 6 months later conversations the other day where you're like, you know what, we made it through those storms. And now this is a guy, he was great when he was there. Breakups are tough. And I think that anybody who says otherwise, those early moments where you don't know whether you're about to write a massive check to them as they leave, which can be really, really hurtful in a bunch of different ways, but that if you can make that 360 back to, this is the great guy that I lived with for 10 years and loved being with, so that they are now, that greatness is still on the outside. To me, that's the win-win.
Yeah, and there's also, you forgot to mention, because you're absolutely right, not just the money, but what about the existing clients? And especially if they're not taking the clients and you've got to deal with the clients and you got to switch them to another lawyer, then you may not even have the capacity. So you got to hire another lawyer or push it on another associate. So there's all those headaches as well. And
oh yeah,
I mean, right. And that's
one less headache though, meaning to me, again, Jay and I have been on both sides of that. But when you sit there and you take a massive economic hit, because we know, the three of us, right? 3 great marketers who have been able to bring cases in. And one of the things you just referred to, which was, I think the thing I get more often than anything, is like, oh yeah, getting cases isn't so easy. And that the fact that I had a steady stream of cases I kind of took for granted when I was with you, that's what I get more than anything. So it's that exit. And I sort of talk to people on the way in. And again, it goes back to dating. If you met a girl in college and she's like, I'm dating somebody, but I'm going to break up to them to go out with you, that's never a good sign. And I feel like if somebody's coming here and they're like, well, hey, what's your book of business worth? I'm looking at what their next year will be, not what can they do as a land grab to bring to me. And then there's no real tail on that. To me, if somebody is looking to basically take advantage of their former employer, I'm under no illusions that that's going to be the same way on the way out. So I genuinely want people who are not looking at it that way. And I assume you guys have dealt with that in both directions.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that how they treat other people is how they're going to treat you in the end. Because I think for the most part, people are exactly who they are, and it's very difficult for them to change. You know, a tiger can't change their stripes type of thing. If that's who they are, you know, there's going to come a point where you're going to be on the receiving end. So if you know that going in and you're willing to accept that risk, that's one thing. But I like to think we live with a higher purpose. I think my biggest thing is, you know, even during this Corona time, I've had a number of messages from some of our clients saying, you know, this client's giving us a hard time. They just don't get it. And I said, hey, you fire the client. You know, if you're telling me that this is not a good client for our firm, and I've never talked to that client, I'll take your word for it. And let's get rid of the client and part ways as best we can.
We could do an entire show on that, Jay. Bill, yeah. I'd love your thoughts, sort of a final round, because, you know, look, taking everything that's going on, the normal strain of running a firm, huge. The ups and downs, emotional roller coaster, this time massive. I am with Jay, but whether it be a Price Benowitz or it be a Blue Shark, if there's a situation where we can't make somebody happy with a reasonable amount of effort, like it's not worth it for the staff. Right. I want the staff to know, lawyers and account people at Blue Shark, if somebody is abusive to the point where it's hurting your ability to get up and go to work every day, or even incrementally getting there, you know it's so hard to get and keep great talent that, to me, that's the reason that I'm doing this. Not just the economics of it being inefficient, but I don't want to burn people out, and it's so easy to do so in today's environment. Bill?
Yeah, and I would close that by telling you that was probably a huge weakness for me as a leader. I always look at you, Seth, and Jay, Tyson, Jim, as you all make mistakes, but you learn very rapidly from your mistakes. And I don't mean like Jay's mistakes where he'll try so many different things. That's marketing. But I'm talking about just generally. Jay learns. Seth, you learn. For me, I'm like stubborn. So one of the things that I didn't learn was that being a leader required to have some backbone and the ability to say, you know what, I don't need everyone to like me. And including my employees, that I want to have a relationship, that I actually love them and I want them to succeed here and elsewhere. But I feel like that's part of when you have the relationships with these lawyers and you see them not responding in a positive way, and you see, especially with COVID and life's short and your family and all that stuff, you've got to have the stones to correct or address the behavior directly, especially with tough litigators who they're tough and they're going to look at you and be like, you know, you're just a marketer now. So, you know, but you have to look them straight in the eye. You have to tell them what your expectations are, and then you have to act accordingly if there's not a change of behavior in a positive way. That's the toughest thing that I've learned when it deals with lawyers. And I, you know, like you, Seth, I feel that all of these guys are partners to me. But I respect them so much that sometimes, for example, you know, they don't want to do things that you think need to happen and have that initial phone call with the client within 3 days because they're busy, and they'll push it off. Or we can go into all that kind of stuff. But if you're not talking to them and telling them what you want and what your clarifications are, and then ultimately if they're not listening, then get rid of them. You know, that's probably the toughest part about this.
That reminds me of something that Jay, it was from the Undercover Billionaire show that I've been thinking and struggling with a lot recently, or working towards, I should say. The idea that was said on that show that the leader works for the employees. And that, you know, and that our job, you think, you're not just a marketer, but the idea is for each call, when I speak to a lawyer, what can I do? What I have all these resources. What can I do to help you do your job better? It's not always perfect. Sometimes they ask for stuff I can't do, but if I'm trying more and more, talking about learning, that's been the thing that I've worked on the most of late, which is how do I make myself that support person rather than just saying, hey, I need this done, which I think was many years how I push things along, and it works, it gets things done. But the idea that you're there as a support mechanism, I think, is something that is definitely like the work in progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so nice seeing you guys. Like, literally, like, it's just this COVID thing sucks. So.
It really does, Bill. You know, I love getting to see you once or twice a year, and it's just not being able to do it has been crushing. But the good thing is that you know, with social media, I'm able to see what you're doing. I love some of the stuff that you're doing with your Lawman's Lounge. I love the stuff that you're doing. I mean, you know, we didn't really have time to talk about it today, but you know, you're big on the community marketing. You're big on the second chance finance stuff, that's all stuff that I think really sort of shows your character and how you believe in people. And I think that's one of the reasons why you've been so successful is that, yeah, there's a whole digital marketing component to whatever we do. But at the end of the day, you know, people hire lawyers that they connect with, and you're able to do that with people. And so, you know, you look at these people, you look at hiring for growth, make sure that you can connect with the people too. You know, some people say, oh, I just want automatons that come in, they execute the work and they go home and they bill their hours and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, you need to have people that can connect with people so that your business can grow.
That's so true, and you just then have to also be aware and willing to embrace the risk that when you have individuals that are able to connect, you know, that they stay with you as long as they're going to stay with you, but they also may want to do their own thing to fulfill their own vision. And those people that can connect with clients, that can be the economic boom that you're talking about, Seth. So, but I mean but I'd rather have that. And you know, that's the vision for me in my firm. I'd rather have my lawyers connecting with people and feeling a two-way street, because it does mean growth, especially if you're not doing billboard or TV advertising or stuff like that.
I got one last thing to say. I got one last thing to say here, though, Seth. One of the things that I like to look at my firm like as sort of like a professional sports franchise, right? And it's going to be around for a long time.
Hopefully not the Jets.
No, definitely. Well, we've had our Jet seasons, that's for sure. There's butt fumbles all over the place in my firm, but in reality, you know, we bring in some players for a season or two that are going to help us, you know, take it to the next level. We have some people, you know, like the Yankees will bring in someone like Derek Jeter, who they'll try to build a franchise around. You know, but you got to recognize is that your firm is a living and breathing thing, and not everyone's supposed to be there for the long haul. Some people are just there to solve a problem and move on. And if you take that mindset that, you know, you want to compete as best you compete right now, and maybe that's having a good farm system with hiring young lawyers. Maybe it's hiring people that are experienced litigators because you've got a bunch of stuff on your desk, but you don't plan on them for being there for longer than 5 years. It's really sort of one of the things that you got to kind of look at what hands you have and play it the best way you can, rather than try to say, this is the only way I'm doing it, and I'm going to do it this way no matter what, because that's when you wind up with a franchise like the Jets. You know?
Yeah, that's, yep.
And nobody wants to be the Jets. I mean, I hate being a Jets fan. My kids wonder why. It's a funny story. My son asked me why are we Jets fans? Everybody else seems to be happy on Sunday and you're not. I said, son, I'm teaching you how to have a broken heart early in life, so when the girls start breaking your heart, you know what it feels like and you can get over it. Because, I mean, I was texting with my other Jets fans this past Sunday saying, so who do you like in the draft this year? Because this season's done. Yeah.
At least the Jets are playing in front of 5 fans now, which is, yeah.
Well, Bill, thank you so much. This made the distance of COVID that a little bit closer, and this was awesome. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, Bill,
thanks. I really miss both of you guys. Yeah, seriously miss both of you. So, all right, see ya.
Soon enough, Bill. We'll be together again. I can't wait.
All right, dude. See
Take
ya.
it easy.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
And it feels good, so good, coming back again. Feels I'm a boss chick, yeah. I'm a boss lady, yeah. I be calling shots, yeah. I be getting money, yeah. I'm a boss chick, yeah. I'm a boss lady, yeah. I be getting money.
Wow. Okay, so Seth, another phenomenal interview. I gotta tell you, each week it gets better and better. Spending even a few minutes with Bill Umansky will put a smile on your face. We got to spend about 45 minutes with him, and just phenomenal. You know, I can never get enough of the Lawman. What were your takeaways?
You know, look, he is somebody who I've always looked to. He's been the glass half full. He's one of those people that's figured out relationships. He invests a ton. We saw some of, in general, what I think he shows is that over time, that if you give and give and give, it comes back. It's not perfect. We all have the episodes that don't work, but I love the way that he shares and tries to put everything out leave everything out there, and that, that he'll take that hand once everything is pushed out.
Yeah, I mean, just great stuff once again. This has been another phenomenal week. I'm really happy with where we're going with this. It seems to be every week we're getting nuggets that people can take away. You can grow your firm. I know at my firm, Ruane Attorneys, I've gone back, listened to some of the interviews that we've done, pulled out some nuggets, shared it with the attorneys in my office, and we're all really growing from it. Same with FirmFlex. It's really been great. I know you with Blue Shark, as well as Price Benowitz, have remarked to me some of the stuff that you've taken away from these interviews. And I think everybody who's one of our listeners can find a nugget or two that they can put down. I've actually started on my phone. I don't know, it's floating around here somewhere. I started on my phone, actually just a notepad, an Apple Note thing of my takeaways from all the stuff, because I want to be able to go back to it and go back to it. And it's amazing what you can find, 2 or 3 weeks later, something resonates with you, you can really roll with it. So with that, I think we're going to end the show. Does that sound good to you, Seth?
That sounds great.
Okay, so here's what we need, folks. We need more comments from you down below what your position is about the abundance mindset. If you're going to help out that person who's going to compete with you, or if you say no way, let us know in the comments. Let's get this conversation going. Seth and I will be monitoring it and responding in kind like we've been doing all week. This is a really important topic, and I think we can use all of your input on it. In the meantime, if you want to take us on the go, you can subscribe to our podcast, the Maximum Growth Live podcast, on any one of the podcasting platforms that are out there. We're also available through syndication on the Maximum Lawyer podcast. I am Jay Ruane, founder of FirmFlex, as well as Ruane Attorneys. He is Seth Price of Blue Shark and from Price Benowitz, and we are your hosts of Maximum Growth Live. We'd like to thank you for being with us. We'll see you again on Tuesday. Remember, 2 shows a week now, Tuesday and Thursday, so you can get a lot of Seth. I get a lot of Seth, and I love it, Seth. So we'll be great. We'll see you soon. Have a phenomenal weekend, and be on the lookout for replays of this show all weekend long in the Maximum Lawyer channel. Thank you, and have a great weekend, folks. Take it easy.